branded gifts for the holidays, birthdays, or just because. Visit us at www.thebreakstore.com. Hit the right black Get in Touch button.
Hello. Welcome to the show about stuff, the Stephen Davis Show.
Welcome to a podcast show about stuff. It's the show about stuff, the Stephen Davis Show. Here's your host, Stephen Davis.
Hey, it's time to talk some stuff. The show about stuff, the Stephen Davis Show, and I'm your host, Stephen Davis. Today I have a wonderful award-winning actress, producer, director, and teacher. She's also the CEO of RHYTHMCOLOR Associates and the founder and producing artistic director of POTPOURRI. And I have a surprise for you later. Let's welcome Kim Weston-Moran. Hey, Kim, how are you doing today?
Currently, I'm pretty cool. I'm procrastinating on some things that are pertaining to my apartment, but other than that, I just took a trip, which I had needed to get beauty. I was going because I just needed to see some beauty and have some peace. And I ended up spending 9 days. I was supposed to only go for 6, but I stayed for 9. And to St. Croix. And I'm glad I went because it really was beautiful. Every time I looked around at a landscape that looked like a painting. So it helped that aspect of my spirit. So I'm glad that I went. And I met some great people. I met friends. And now I talk to my cousins. They've been, but now they want to go back with me because I know people and I know more about the island. And so I'm good on that. Yeah, I'm doing pretty okay.
Had you been there before?
No, not St. Croix. I've been to a lot of other places, but I've been to Puerto Rico, Jamaica, Mexico, a couple of places, but never St. Croix. I don't know why it never really crossed my mind. And then when my cousin said she went and how beautiful it was, saw a friend of mine. She was an acquaintance, but we had talked on the phone years ago, had a long conversation, and she lived down there for 30 years. And a friend of mine posted something she was doing politically down there. So I said, damn it, let me call her. So I called her, and it turned out to be the best thing that I could do. She does tours, and we both said, she said, Kim, you got to tell all your people that got a little bit of cash, even if they have to put it together to buy land down here. She said, because all the other folks are coming down like they did after the pandemic, like Maui, all of that. So I said, I'm going to spread the word. My cousins, that's what we talked about for about an hour last night, how we could get a little piece of land. And because you could do an Airbnb, and you got to do that soon before they change the laws, because they're getting ready to, people are doing well with those Airbnbs, and they don't like it when the little people do well. So anyway, what else?
Where we start on this show is at the beginning. Where were you born at?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I'm a native New Yorker.
The great borough of Brooklyn, New York.
Yeah.
I used to say to people when I lived in Manhattan that I lived on a little island that was the greatest in the world, Manhattan. Then I moved to Brooklyn and I changed it. I said,
that's right. And Brooklyn is not a little island either. Brooklyn is pretty large. It's like a state. But yeah, I lived in Manhattan too. I went to Performing Arts High School.
Okay,
and
we're going to get into that. I want to go in order because
sorry,
all of it.
Oh my God. How long is this interview? Wait a minute. What?
Now, you were born in Brooklyn. I'm not going to ask you how old.
Right.
Or how long ago.
Thank you.
But what part of Brooklyn did you grow up in?
Okay, I was born in Brownsville, down by Livonia Avenue, but I grew up in Bushwick. My mother bought a house when we were 3 years old. And she said she always wanted to have a yard for us, a backyard, which we used in the early days. And then once we started getting to be teenagers, we stopped going back there. But so I grew up in a house in Bushwick, and I stayed there till I was 15. And I got kicked out of Performing Arts High School. So my mother sent me to Morocco to live with my dad, who is a musician. And he had a club there called the African Rhythms Club, because she was afraid I was going to be too fast and get pregnant or something. So she sent me to live with my father and my brother, which probably was one of the greatest things in the world she could have done for me. Because although my dad and my mom filled us up with culture all our life, Black history, we had to read all kind of books. My father, we called him a lecturer because we'd be at the dinner table and here come dad with the lecture. But it's cool. It was good and bad, because it got me in trouble in school sometime, because the history of the social studies teacher would say something. And I said, oh no, blah, blah, blah. So it get me in trouble. But yeah, I got kicked out of performing arts and I lived in
Before
Morocco.
you went to performing arts school, what elementary school did you go to? Did you go to kindergarten or you?
Yeah, God, you want everything. How come you want
Oh, everything.
Nobody asked me about kindergarten. Yeah, I went to public school 106. And then I went to junior high school 296, but that was only for the 7th grade. And I forget now, but I guess it was the 7th grade. And then I went to performing arts high school. I auditioned and I got in. I was in a theater program my mother put me in the summer at Brooklyn College with this guy, Maurice Watson. So they were all college students and I was young. I was junior high school trying to get into high school. And they did a lot of ritual theater. So we didn't really get to do roles, but we got to be part of the ritual theater. And it was very exciting. I had another friend, and I can't think of her name right now, but the two of us went. Her mother and my mother were friends, so we would go to this workshop. And Maurice was the one who helped me audition and get into performing arts with the monologue. And I auditioned with Our Town. I did a piece from Our Town.
You talk about the arts. I know the reason why, because it's just part of your blood.
Yeah, that's for sure.
On those early years of school, was there encouragement to be in the performing arts for you?
Yeah, they tried to get me to piano, but I couldn't. My focus wasn't there. But my mother, I went to dance school. Catherine Dunham, my sister and I used to get on the train and go Saturday mornings, and for a couple of years, not many years. But I was always around it. And I think it really was in my blood, because I would be the one that stay up all night watching all the movies, musicals on TV. And then I would try to entertain my mother. I get on her nerves. And I was very curious. I asked so many questions. I know I got on her. We'd be on the bus and I read, what's that, Mom? What's that mean? Blah. She's, oh my God, who is this child? So I was very curious and nosy. I wanted to know how everything worked. But yes, my dad took me, I think we were about 9 years old, because like they always exposed us to culture. So we went up to famous theater in Connecticut on the Hudson, something on the Hudson stand. I can't think of it, but anyway. Huh?
Stafford on the Hudson?
Yes, Stafford on the Hudson. And I'm terrible with names. And I said I was going to have some of this written down. But what's his name? He's from Brooklyn too. And he was in a play, 2-character piece, which made me fall in love with Waiting for Godot. I don't know how I understood that play at 9 years old, but some kind of way, the essence of it, I understood. And oh God, what is his name? He won Officer and a Gentleman, I'm talking about.
Oh, Lou Gossett?
Yes, Lou Gossett was in it. And I was young, and it was, he has a Black man and a white man, and they did that. And that play left such an I can't even tell you, something about it, it just got in me. And then a few years later, when I was in performing arts, I went to see Debbie Allen in Lorraine Hansberry Raisin. And I fell in love with her, and I fell in love with that character, and I fell in love with the part. And years later, I played Beneath with Debbie's sister, Phyllcia Allen. And it was right when she was getting the Bill Cosby TV show. So we never got a chance to do the actual, I think we did 1 or 2 performances, and then they had to replace her. But Debbie came and she gave me a great compliment, which I take it to heart, but I could never dance like her. So she said, oh, you really did that. You acted it. She was saying how I was better than her as an actress. I said, thank you, but I don't think, not better than her, but better in that role that I really went another way. I said, but you know what? I could never dance like you dance, so who's to say? She left it was like, a young girl, 15, seeing a person that kind of looked like them on stage doing part that you never saw. It's the same old story. We all have that story, not now the generation, but when I was coming up, I was lucky because we had more images, Julia and different things that were speaking to a diverse Black woman.
Yeah, talk about your experiences at the school, high school of performing arts. First of all, were there any folks there that became quite famous later on that you worked with?
I'm trying to think. The only person that really hits mine, and probably other people, but the one who really hits mine is Lilius White. Lilius White was, oh no, that was at City College at Aaron Davis. I'm sorry. No, there are people, but I don't remember them. I had a friend in the dance department and a friend in the music department, and we were the ones that did the sit-ins and all of that. But they went other ways. They didn't go professional. One opened up an art school and an educational school in Jamaica. And the other young lady who was a dancer, I'm not sure what happened to her. But no, off the top of my head, I know there are people, but I really don't remember who it was.
When you were in the high school, was that you had to do performances to an audience?
When you're in the school like performing arts, they really treated it like a professional school. So we didn't get to perform for the first year or so for an audience. We did it for class, and other professors would come, or the head of the department would come, but they didn't allow us to perform, I think, until the second year. And I was asked to leave after the first year. So I didn't take part in that
You
particular.
know, I have to ask you why.
I told you, I was very militant, and I had joined the kids. This is going to age me, but there was back in those days, it was like the Vietnam and all of that. And so I had joined the kids for, I think it was Ohio. Something was going on with the white kids in Ohio. But then when it came time to the kids in Jackson State, nobody started anything. So myself and my girls, we started a sit-in, and I was always defending the underdog. I had this white girlfriend, I think she was Polish, and she wasn't a beauty, she was overweight, but the girl could act and she was smart. And I had this professor who was there a long time, and I guess she was an actress that didn't really make it. But anyway, she was really old school. She had that 40s, I think she was Italian, this whole 40s, pull her hair back, the lipstick, and dressed in the suits. And she liked me a lot, and she wanted me to be something that I wasn't, I think. And she kept comparing me to the Latin actress. She didn't say she was Latin, I don't think. But anyway, the one who was in 100 Rifles with the football player, she kept saying, oh, you're petite. And I never thought of Raquel as petite, but the film and TV can fool you. She says, oh, you remind me of her so much, your whole look and this and that. And I didn't have my hair long. I had an afro, so I don't know what she was talking about. But anyway, I did bold things in my workshops.
You're a rabble rouser, huh?
Yeah, and I was always trying to create until you told me, even as a professional actress, if you didn't tell me that worked or keep that, I would keep bringing in stuff until you tell me what worked, because I'm not the director has the thing. I'm just bringing the creativity and how I see it. You molded. I remember I was doing, oh God, the Children's Hour. And instead of dressing normal like a schoolgirl, I had on clogs and sweat socks and a short culotte. And she said that you should have dressed more for the style of that time. And I said, Maurice Watson, who helped me get in, one of my teachers helped me get into performing arts. He told me the idea is if you come on stage nude, you got to make them forget you're naked. And they hated me. I had an answer for everything. And it was not like I knew it all. This is what I had learned. You know what I mean? So I'm just sprouting stuff that I had been taught. So anyway, when it came time for the Jackson State, we had the sit-in and all of that. They called my mother up, and then I did other stuff. I wasn't going to my algebra class. I was like, I don't even know why I need to know the square root. And my algebra teacher was a Black woman. I ended up meeting her whole family, and later on, I'm even friends with her sister. But she tried to explain it to me, but I said, I hate this. I don't want to come here. So they brought my mother up. So my mother was so disappointed. Oh, she was so hurt. So my uncle had a bar. My uncle Les had a bar on Howard Avenue, not far from Broadway. So my mother took me there, and she bought me a big old glass of rum and coke. And she told me to get a pack of cigarettes. And I had to sit there at the table and smoke the whole pack and drink the thing. She said, you grown? You can get out of school. I was messed up. She said, you grown? You want to act grown? This is what grown people do. And I know, because she didn't want to hit me anymore. I was at that age. She didn't want to spank me anymore. So she said, I don't know what I'm going to do. I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to send you to your father and your brother. You ain't gonna get pregnant on me or something, she said. So that's how I ended up.
I had an aunt that was only 1 year. She's only 1 year older than me, but my grandmother made her sit down and smoke a pack of cigarettes because she said she wanted to smoke. And she said she smoked a pack of cigarettes, but she didn't smoke for a long time after that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
Now, I do want to get to the point of, first of all, why did they want you to play the piano?
Wasn't like they wanted to. It was like, these are the things that my father came up with the piano, and I guess my mother came up with the dance, and I came up with theater. So it wasn't so much that they really wanted me. They just wanted to make sure I did some kind of music. At one point, I thought I wanted a guitar, so they got me one of those little acoustic guitars, but that didn't work. I didn't have the patience for music. I don't know why, or the focus. But theater, I did.
I'm leading to the fact that, and you hit it because you said your father wanted you to be the pianist. What was your father?
No, he didn't want me to be the pianist. That was
No,
just,
he wants you to take piano.
yeah, he just came up with whatever I wanted, but he's the one who said, why don't we try piano?
But the point is, why would he choose the piano?
I guess because he's a pianist. I said that
Now,
earlier.
let's introduce your father because you talk about him, but we don't introduce him, and this show is not about him. So I didn't want to start off with, oh, she's the daughter of such and such, because you have your own career yourself. People need to know. But now that you open that door, who is your father?
My dad is the late great, right, I say is the late great Randy Weston. I want to say jazz pianist and icon, but he looked at music far more than being boxed in jazz. His whole trajectory was African rhythms, and that all music came from African rhythms, whether it was the blues, jazz, all of it. Yeah.
I got to meet your father at a concert at, what's it there, Iridium?
Iridium. Yeah, he played there quite a bit. Mm-hmm.
And I went with a friend of mine and who also knew your father, so he introduced me to him, which is just a wonderful experience to have been there at that particular period of time. And the funny part is that I know that later on you moved to Los Angeles for a little while.
Yeah, I lived there for 2 years.
And that's where I met you.
Okay, because you told me that. Huh?
In Los Angeles.
Okay, we had an event or?
No, we went out to lunch. And at that particular period of time, I just met you, and I didn't know who your father was. I didn't know.
No, I never talked about him.
Years later.
Yeah, no, I never talked about him. After he died, I talked a little more and let people know, because people came up to me and said, "Damn, Kim, I've been following you for 20 years, and I never knew Randy was your father." I said, because it was private for me, because I learned early on, people get it twisted. That's how they introduce me all the time. And that's nice, but him being a musician is not going to get me an acting job. Not really, but yeah.
But the point is that I didn't want to introduce you as his daughter. I wanted to introduce you as yourself.
No, and I respect that. Thank you. Definitely.
Now, you are kicked out of the high school. You moved to Morocco. How long did you stay in Morocco?
I was in Morocco for a year. And it was really exciting, and it was an adventure, and yeah, it was good. It was good. It was very exciting. My first day I got in trouble because I'm a Scorpio Sagittarius, so I'm very adventuresome. I want to know. And I tell you before, I'm nosy. Scorpios are like private detectives. They want to know. And so everybody was sleeping because they had worked at the club that night. So I got up early in the morning, and my mother was a designer, and she made me little things. So I had these white hip hugger pants and this top that my mother gave me, but it was like the girls wear now, the midriff shop, but we used to wear them back in the 70s.
Yeah.
So I go out with my big afro into the streets of Tangier, dressed like a hoochie, and I get up into the Casbah, and the little boys are starting to pinch my skin, and they like want to touch my afro, and I got like the flies. I was paranoid. I was like, oh my God. But Tangier was such a town that everybody knew everybody's business, and especially my dad. They said, "Oh, Randy Weston daughter." So they directed me back to my house, and my brother opened the door, and he was going to beat me up He said, you can't go out in the street like that showing skin. Didn't you read up? This is a Muslim country. You don't go out there showing your skin. Ah,
Did you go? I would imagine you went to school while you were in Morocco.
actually, I didn't. No, when I was in Morocco, my sister graduated from the American school. My brother got kicked out of there too. He got kicked out of the American school because he was very militant also. He was my big brother. I was very close to him. And no, I didn't go to school. I worked with my dad. He would have me, that's where I got introduced to typing and stuff like that. And I would type letters, like he would be sending out letters either for gigs or different things, answer letters, and then go to the club with him when he ordered the stock. And then at night, early part of the night, I would be like a hostess DJ. Sometimes I would play the R&B or whatever they were dancing to, and then greet people. And then usually, I don't know, like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, I would usually go. There was like a little upstairs, three little stairs up in the back. When it was crowded, it was full. But when it wasn't crowded, it was empty. And I would go lay on those leather seats and fall asleep. And then my dad or my brother would come and say, okay, we're going to walk you home. And they would take me home and then come back to the club or whatever. Yeah.
How long did your father own that club?
I think for about 3 years, maybe, because he had it before I came, and it's eluding me if he had it for 2 years or a year, but at least 3 years, I think he owned it. Yeah, and he had a partner. You had to have a Moroccan partner. And Akaboun, the Akaboons, Absalon Akaboun, his wife Khadijah, and his children, they were like our family. They were beautiful. I could go over there and eat some authentic food. We always ate authentic food, but she could cook. And spend time. We became close, Khadijah and I. I spent a lot of time with her. She was a very spiritual person. And my dad used to hold, like they call them here, lele's, kind of it was for I say Europe, but there it's not. It's eluding me. The music that, oh God, I don't care why I can't call the people that he plays with. Oh, I see it up there, but I can't see it from here. But anyway, the spiritual people that were there that he hooked up with, and they gave him a spiritual color, and they played the colors just like in Yoruba. So she had a spiritual connection because her mother, way back in the day, they lived in Fez, and Fez is one of the oldest cities in the world. And she used to have whole spiritual leles for the musicians. And I think back then it would have been equivalent. I don't know if I'm telling secrets here, but it would be equivalent to like Oshun, the color yellow. But she also, when she got hit by it, she could see people, and she would, if somebody was not correct, she would go into her trance and tell them. So I experienced this, and it took them about 2 days to get her out of the trance. I went to the house, and they had to burn this incense and bring the spiritual guy in. So it was deep. It was a great experience.
Now let's go back just a tiny bit before we go forward. I don't even have to say that because now I remember you didn't stay in school long enough to do a performance.
Not at Performing Arts High School, no. It was just only workshop. I did performances, but in classes.
Yeah. You leave, you spent a year in Morocco. What brought you back to the States?
They had a coup.
Okay.
It was a coup.
That would take you decide to leave.
There was a coup, and we had to get out of town quick. So we came back, and I went to Satellite Academy, which was like, at that time, they were doing like you work and go to school, you work a week, you go to school a week. And they asked us, it was supposed to be very progressive. So they had what programs. I wanted an acting class. So we brought in Gwen Tomlin. I don't know if you ever knew Gwen Tomlin, but her son, it's her brother, I think. I forget, it was her younger brother. He directs for one of the soaps now. But Gwen Tomlin, she was wonderful. I was blessed. I really had some phenomenal teachers in my life. Francis Foster, Arthur, Alan Miller. This one crazy guy I had that we had to get rid of him. He was I can't call his name, but he was white, famous. He had worked with NEC, but he was just a hater. That's all. He said when he worked with NEC, he said Billy D. Williams would never make it, and Billy D. Williams blew up. And he was a little fresh, and I was a little fast and rough a little bit. I had Brooklyn. I always say, wherever I go, I try to carry a little bag of Brooklyn shit with me. I should have said, dude, But anyway, he was doing some stuff with them. But anyway, I challenged everybody. But he said, "Oh, she's a good actress, but she's such and such." And I was like, I don't know. Anyway, it was the first time I got a C in acting since I had been into college. Israel Hicks I had as a teacher. Yeah, I had Francis Force. I had some good people, really, for my groundwork. They really taught us how to act, but I loved when I got out of college. I worked with Betty. Oh God, Betty. Oh my God, I just saw her name. I don't know why I can't remember names. That's something about me. They get pulled out of my mouth. But Bet worked with NEC, but she was working. I was up at Frank Severa's writer's workshop, and Bet Howard was friends with PJ, and they wanted to do one of PJ's pieces. And so they liked me for the role because I was like a young PJ, look a little bit like PJ. And that we did at 42nd Street, the Black Theater Alliance, and that kind of put me on the map. But I loved working with Bet Howard. The way she directed it was great. It was just great. And then when I direct, I use the same style that she does.
Okay. Now, did you go to Frank Silvera workshop when at that time? Probably by that time, Frank died, but Garland Thompson.
Yeah, I was there with Garland. For quite a few years. Okay. And I love readings. I love the readings because they really forced you to make choices quickly.
Yes.
So I love that.
Now, how did it, if you left high school after 1 year, when you came back, you didn't go back to high school, or you just went straight to college?
No, I went to City when I was able to finish the year up there, and then I went to college. Yeah.
Yeah. Which college? That's what I was trying to get at. What
City College, and it was the Aaron Davis Center for the Performing Arts.
Had you already performed when you got to City College? Did you get to perform in high school?
I only really did, to my remembrance, when I was at Satellite Academy, we had an end of the year performance, and we wrote our own stuff, and Gwen Tomlin directed it. Like I said, she was our teacher. So I did a play there. In class, as always, I did characters. I loved characters. I loved dialects, all of that. But that was the only really not even professional performance that I did in front of an audience before I went to City College.
But that's the point that I was trying to get. I wanted to know, on that first performance, you had to get in front of that crowd. How did you feel?
I would like
to be out on that stage.
I would like to be really honest with you, but I think y'all would be mad, and I might be embarrassing myself. But as I said, I was somewhat of a cut up. So I'm gonna be honest. I'm old enough now. I had made a fatal mistake, and we had smoked some marijuana before we got on stage. So it was like a Mack truck coming through each line. It was like, "Hey, black junkie, beat. Power to the people, beat, beat, beat. All black." I remember that was so embarrassing. So needless to say, I never smoked marijuana again when I work on a play. So
I'm glad you straightened that up. You that the last part, when I go on the play.
When I work on a play, no, I don't smoke. No.
Okay, so that was your first performance, and when you went to college at Aaron Davis or City College, and you had performances then.
But they did the same thing as, I tell you, I was blessed. They did the same thing as PA, Performing Arts. We could not perform professionally before an audience until we became, I was a freshman till I became a junior. So freshman and sophomore year, like it would be your peers and other people in the school could come, but not until I became a junior did we start doing for the outside, where we really invited people in and they start bringing in agents, things like that.
Now, did you have any other militant experiences while you're in college? Did you have any other militant?
Yeah,
I knew to ask that.
I did. I had a couple. One in particular was, we had, oh God, oh, he's so famous. That's the one that Lilius White worked with, and a lot of people, they wanted me to join. And it was, I can't call, oh, he's famous. He was out of Jersey. But anyway, they had the demigods. That was the Walker. I can't think his first name right now, but last name was Walker, and they had the demigods, and quite a few people came out of there that worked a lot. They may not became as famous as Lilius, but they worked Broadway. They did a lot of stuff. But I was afraid of them because they seem, and I was wild, but they seemed really wild. And then he kept them rehearsing late at night. They were really like a company, like a cult company almost. But I had to work jobs when I was in school because I was paying my way through. I had some grants, but I had an apartment. Nobody was helping me pay that. My mother got my books, but she couldn't pay my rent. I was independent back then. So I had this little old, first a studio apartment on 77th Street, across the street from Miles Davis. And then I moved to 82nd Street and I stayed there for 25 years, west end of Riverside.
I have a friend that I had on a show not long ago who she lived on 82nd Street also. I used to live on 92nd in Amsterdam, and she lived on 82nd. And I think Earl the Pearl Monroe lived like...
Yeah, he lived down there too. I met him too. Yeah, my brother had introduced me to him. I went to a party at his house or something back. And Thelonious Monk. Thelonious Monk lived on 83rd and West End around the corner from me.
And that was after he used to live in the projects on...
Yeah, behind Lincoln Center. Mm-hmm. You didn't know you were going to be playing Jeopardy with me, huh?
No. Hey, this is what makes a good show. You have a lot of experience. As a matter of fact, while I was sitting here talking with you, I recognized where we met, or under the circumstances we met. I was trying to produce a movie called Brandywine.
I vaguely remember that, yes. Brandywine.
Yes,
I remember the title.
Meeting with some studios and stuff. That's the time period that we met.
Okay.
That was such a long time ago, wasn't it?
Oh, shame on you. I was a tenderoni.
You were just a mere child.
I was a tenderoni, baby. That's tenderoni. That's it. Mm-hmm.
Oh, now, when you finished college, where did you go? Is that when you went to Los Angeles, or there was some time?
No, I didn't go to Los Angeles till almost 10 years after I graduated college. No, I got into the theater scene. I got hooked up with two great people who were my mentors in Harlem, Roger Furman and Gertrude Jeanette and then Roger Furman. And Roger Furman was casting for Rashomon. And I had taken these kind of pictures that I thought they were cute, but I wasn't really sending them out. But for some reason, I decided to send him the picture. It was like very sultry looking and whatnot. And so he called me in the audition and I got the role in Rashomon. Mm-hmm. That was a great experience. And Miss Jeanette, I came right after college because I became a Cedar artist with her. She was at Arts and Culture. And I became a Cedar artist, and that's where I really got my taste for producing, and because she had me do a lot of stuff with her to make the plays. We did plays, and I performed in the plays, but I also was on salary. So I helped do a lot of I learned a lot of the marketing and stuff. And while I was in City College, I had, in the summer, worked with the public theater in their group ticks. I learned about group sales. I learned a lot about how the administrative worked in theater. And I found that I liked that almost as much as I liked the performing.
What are some of the other plays during that particular period of time that you had the privilege of performing in?
I don't know if I can remember, God. I have been blessed. I worked in a lot of plays. Back then, it'd probably be out of order. With Roger Furman, I worked on a couple of other pieces with him. And Phyllis Stickney was part of that at that time. She came after I had worked with him.
For a while.
And I'm trying to think of names of plays in the early days. Oh, God. Anyway, I did a lot of plays with Woody King Jr., at least 6 or 7 plays. I was blessed that he loved my acting. And I think Woody always got mad at me because he felt I should have kept acting all the time, but whatever. But he was very, very instrumental in showcasing me to the world. I was grateful. I did about 4 or 5 plays with him. I did a piece it was a Caribbean piece.
Some of the ones that I have right in front of me.
Good, thank you. Ask me about them, right? Because I'm trying to pull this up.
I want to ask you first about a play that you won your Dolan Award with.
Don't Explain? Huh? Don't Explain?
Uh-huh. Tell me about that. Was that way after, or was it?
That was in we did that in 1990, I think it was, or 91.
That was after you came back from Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I don't know whether these are in order or not.
So yeah, that one, say some others.
Were you in, was this later, or were you in the original production of For Color Girls?
No, I was not in the original production of For Color Girls. I was in a touring, actually it was a bus and truck. I called it Push and Shove, but it was a touring company we did it in a van. We traveled across the country and did it with Kim Brockington, Brenda Denmark. I had already worked with Brenda, though, because she had worked with me on Miss Ann Don't Cry No More, the piece by P.J. Gibson. There was a couple of other people that were in the play, too.
Now, was it the National Touring Company that you did it with?
I'm trying to remember the name of it. I don't remember the name of it. I really don't. Daedalus Productions.
When you got your first nomination for an award for your acting, what did it make you feel?
It made me feel proud. Yeah, I felt great. I had got other nominations prior, and like this film I did with the Phyllcia Rashad, who is now award-winning filmmaker, but she had did this short film that we did, and the film won awards. It didn't win Best Actress, but it won Best Film, so that was good enough for me.
Now, you bop around New York City for a while. What made you decide that you needed to go out to Los Angeles? Was it a role that you were going to do, or was just trying to seek new horizons?
No, I was trying to seek more life. And again, I'm gonna be honest, I had broken up with this actor who I'm not gonna say who, and I felt I needed to do something that, different with my life.
Mm-hmm.
So I went out, and oh yeah, I had a couple of friends out there, of course. One of my dear friends in college, he was into video and filmmaking and stuff. He lived out there. Charles Weldon, who I had just finished working with, Chanel Perry, and the one that I told you I did, Raisin in the Sun, and Chanel Perry directed it, produced by Woody King. And that was the one that Debbie Allen's sister, what's her name, was in, Phyllcia Rashad. And
didn't Charles Weldon write something that was very well known?
No, I think you're thinking of Charles Weldon Johnson. Charles Weldon is the Negro Ensemble, and he was in a lot of films. He was famous. One famous film he was in was with Richard Pryor, I think Stir Crazy or something like that. He was in the jail with him. But he did a lot of plays with Negro Ensemble Company. He was one of the founding members back in the early days.
When you're out in Los Angeles is a different lifestyle than being from New York. How did you, first of all, adjust to the difference in climate, in people's attitude? Because they tend to be a little bit more laid back. How was your experience?
When I first went there, I was lucky. I got a job with my former acting teacher. He had Alan Miller. He had a theater company out in Burbank. And so they needed somebody to come in and rebuild their audience membership, people who had subscriptions. So first coming out, that was good for me to be around the theater right out the box. Majority white theater, but they did a lot of interesting stuff. They did experimental to straight plays. And I got them old people to come back, and I built their subscription back up. But Alan's wife was this arrogant white girl, and we got into it because she tried to talk down to me or boss me around. And I'm very cool. And back then I was cool. But as soon as that was one thing that my parents gave me, nobody is better than you. And so when she talked down to me, I gave her a piece of my mind, so they fired me. But I was there for a while. I had been there almost a year, almost a year.
And then you're fired from there. And then while you're out in Los Angeles, what's the next thing that you do?
When I was in Los Angeles, even when I was with them, I was working on getting my car, working on getting an agent. People had introduced me. I even had some auditions. And I told this story in another film, so I don't know if I'm going to tell this whole story. But anyway, I was recommended by a pretty well-known actor-director, and I went for this audition for this gang member. And coming from New York, I know how to be a gang member, so I dressed in the appropriate way I thought a gang member was. So when I get to the audition, all the women, there was a lot of Latin women and some Black women, so they wanted me to play Latin, which I can play. They were all dressed with their long flowing hair and their dresses and makeup, and I'm like coming in there looking like I'm ready to fight. I had my little scarf around my head and my dungaree Levi vest and my jeans. And the mistake I made was, I don't know why I did this. I have no idea why I did this. I'm so embarrassed. Anyway, I brought a hatchet in a towel. And when it came time to do my big thing, I pulled that hatchet out like I was going to kill somebody. I didn't walk toward her, but just the fact I had the hatchet. The woman almost jumped out her seat, out the window, child. I said, what a dummy. But yeah, like I had my own mind about shit. And sometimes you got to learn the rules before you can break all the rules before you can break them. So I felt like I'm going to do this because it's going to make me more authentic. And so I messed that up. But I did also go out for a different world. But they kept saying, when they looked at me, they kept saying I remind them of Lisa Bonet. And even though I was probably 10 years older than Lisa Bonet, I look young. And so they kept saying they were looking for a den mother or something for a role. And they just said, you just look too young. And I did some plays out there. I did about 1 or 2 plays. And I worked with Junie Smith. He had the Rainbow Theater Company. And I actually got him to do a couple of PJ Gibson, a couple of people I know plays. And yeah, and then sometimes I hang out with Charles. He lived on Manhattan Beach, and he used to have nice parties or take me to somebody's famous party. And so that was good. I got to be around some people. And I remember one night I was out with this famous guy's son, and I'm not going to say his name, but anyway, I had heard already that he was bisexual or gay. I don't know. But so we're out at this hip restaurant, and some famous people that I knew. Hey, Kim. So this guy, I guess he thought I was like green, I was green, but not that green that I didn't know a few people. So he decided now he's going to put his hand around me and act like we together. Now I know everybody's business out there. So I said, everybody know this guy is bisexual or gay or whatever. So he kept doing it, and I had to keep putting his hand. So I said, oh my God, I'm going to have to bring my little bag of Brooklyn Dew out on him. And he was very persistent, and he was doing it. He did it in front of this guy that I knew. Mm-hmm. And finally, I just turned around, but I didn't say it loud. I said, look, mother, I know you gay or something. Would you stop putting your arm on me? I said, oh, I tried to be cool, but I don't know. I think people heard me. So I ran into all that. And I guess I should be grateful, Stephen. But sometimes it just felt like I always knew I was okay, but I never knew until that I was as cute as I was. But it was like I was being hit on by man, woman, and dog. It became a lot. You know what I mean? It was a little much. And because I don't bite my tongue, they don't like that. They don't want you. My friend kept telling me, said, you got too many opinions. Keep them to yourself. You got to play the game. I said, play what game? I remember I knew the game, but I'm like, I can't play that game. I can be me. So I remember I went to this agent, and she wanted me to wear short skirts and wear my hair straight and wear high heels and look like every other little mama out there. And I said, look, if you get me the audition and that's what it calls for, I will straighten my hair or put a wig on. I'll put a short skirt on and some heels, and I'll go for the job. I said, but that's not my everyday look. I'm a natural kind of girl. You know what I mean? I'm just not going to be out every day with makeup on, and just not me. I said, but if you send me for the job, I'll dress up for it. I had put a variety of pictures with different looks. So I don't know. LA was rough. It wasn't most terrible, but it was rough.
Right after that is when you decided to move back to New York?
Yeah, after almost 2 years. And I was trying to get this place with a friend who came from New York, but she misled me. I thought she had half of her money, and I called my mother and my sister, and I borrowed the money. And when we get to the house was like between Burbank on the Laurel Canyon or somewhere near Laurel Canyon, between Burbank and Hollywood. And then she told me she didn't have her money. after we got the play, because the guy, I gave him my half, and now we needed her half. So we ended up spending one night there, and I thought I was going to lose my mind on that girl, but I didn't beat her up or nothing or try to beat her up. I was just so hurt, you know? So I just told my mom, I said, look, I'm sending the money back, and I think I'm coming back to New York. I said, because everybody ain't who they say they are, and that's hard. It was, at least I had a support system in New York. I had a little support system in LA, but not like New York. Maria Bryant became a very close friend of mine. She's a wonderful actress, and she's from San Francisco, but I met her here in New York. And this other sister named Pamela, she really had my back. There were a couple, but not many. And I had worked after I left the theater, I got a job in Itoken Plaza, which was in Beverly Center, and it was a Japanese designer kind of store and clothing store. So I worked in there for a while. And then I worked with Junie for a while with his theater and like I said, I did about 2 plays. And then I decided to come back. And that was hard. I'm going to say when I came back, I think I was depressed. I was going through some stuff. But I got it together because what always saved my life was doing a play. If I got a play, everything else fell away. So I got plays. Rome Neal, he makes me mad. He says I was the showcase queen, but he's right. I must have did about 60 plays or something back then. Back to back, I was doing play after play after play. And so when I came back, I got some theater, some acting jobs, probably with Woody. It might have been Woody who saved my life, because every now and then he'd come up with a nice role for me. And
how was it like doing the play that you did with Rome Neal?
Don't explain?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, it was exciting. Rome is the type of guy, if you're a good actress, he'd let you play a little and bring what you got. Because I think sometimes you got to tell people they don't play. Do you know what I mean? My training is you go home. The best actors do, of course, but in a lot of these off-Broadway kind of things, you get a variety of some trained actors and new actors. Ron hadn't worked on stage as an actor maybe in 12 or 13 years, because when he was younger, he wanted to act. And then he had some hurdles in life he had to get rid of. And he was a great poet. He was a great jazz poet, the guy who played Lee Morgan, who passed, Ron Cephas Jones. He just passed. And he was a great jazz poet. And they say, oh, Kim, you got to come. The playwright said, oh, Kim, you got to come and see him, because I think he's right. You tell me. So Rome and the playwright and I went. And Samuel Harps was the playwright. And this cat had the stingy brim. He had the cigarette hanging out the side of his mouth, the coffee in his hand. Would have been a drink, but he didn't drink. And he was spitting bebop poetry, jazz. It was phenomenal. And I said, there's Lee Morgan. He had the stingy brim, just like Lee Morgan, the shades, the demeanor, the rhythm, everything. We worked together. He'd come to my house maybe 2 times a week or 3 times a week so that we could really make our relationship strong. Because I played Elena, which was his wife, and she was older than him, and she was a professor. You couldn't really read that I was older than him in the play, so we just played it that I was more bougie, sophisticated, and that the music and him just turned me out and turned my head, because I'd never met anybody like him. Because he was very, as a lot of musicians are, very intelligent and well-read and stuff. So it was good. He allowed us to have a lot of freedom in the piece. And we used the whole theater. We used the backyard for the alleyway. We used the upstairs for when he was kicking his habit. So we used the whole theater when we did that.
One of the eerie things for me was the fact that I went to the Nuyorican Cafe a couple of weeks ago. They did.
When Rome had his event?
Yes, I was there when you got on.
Oh, God, I told him he better not publish that.
But anyway, it was just eerie when we talk about Don't Explain that it's about Lee Morgan, who was a gifted jazz musician who was killed right down the block, a couple of doors down from where the Nuyorican Cafe is.
The Nuyorican and Woody King. Remember, Woody King had his theater. I worked there for many years as an usher and a box office manager.
Okay, at the Henry Street Settlement, right?
The Henry Street Settlement, but he had the 3rd Street Theater.
Okay.
That's where the first time he did Colored Girls, the first
Oh,
original production of Colored Girls. And then after he did it there, the Public Theater saw the show and they picked it up.
yeah, I do remember that. I do remember that. But it just was just eerie to be watching and knowing that this happened right down the street.
That's right. That's
Uh,
right. It happened. Oh, it's Slugs. That's right. It was a Slugs nightclub.
Yes. How was the vibe that particular period of time? Not just you, but the people around you that you work with.
Oh, it was exciting. I got to see so much theater and be around people and being at that young age. Like I said, I was nosy and curious. So I was just like an open, trying to draw all of that energy and knowledge through Woody. We had did 3 plays by Ed Bullins, 3 one-acts. And again, Ed Bullins gave me one of the best compliments I ever got in my life. And he told me he hadn't seen those plays done maybe in 20 years or something. And he told me, he said, you did those characters the best that anybody has done in a long time. And I was like, oh, thank you, Ed. Because when I was working at the Public in the summer, when they were doing, I worked as a receptionist. I worked in the group sales. And then I worked when Debbie and Dean Irby were doing Mundungo. And they were taking around the city in the summer on the float, different parks and places. So I was property mistress on that. So I got a chance to work background in theater a lot, do a lot of things. And so I met Ed then because he was an artist in residence at the Public. So me and him, I would come around and take time off and go look for him in the theater. And he would talk about the new Lafayette and the history and all that stuff. So I really feel blessed. I'm telling you, I came up in a time where I really got to see just great plays, great actors. It was just a phenomenal time.
Now, you move into the 90s and the 2000s. How did your career progress?
The thing about me, quite honestly, I was a very emotional, like some people are. And so I would drop out from time to time of the business and I'd go get a job. Because the other side of me, as I said, like I'm also very political and community oriented because that's how my mother and father raised me. My mother worked in the community for 45 years in all kinds of programs, New York Urban League, some youth programs. She was a director of a program in Red Hook, and she worked for, just before she retired, was the Urban League. And she said, I can't take these people anymore. So she early retired, which if she had just waited a few more years, it would have been better for her. But she was sick of it. But when she retired and she moved into senior housing, she became the tenant president for 15 years. And she used to have fish fries, and all the civic leaders in Brooklyn, the Black ones anyway, would come here. And when she first came here, she said the Caribbean woman and the African American women weren't talking to each other. So she said, oh, we're going to have a quilting bee. So she sat them all in a circle and would ask questions about where they came from, who they were. And so the women started exchanging and they became close and friends. And it wasn't that division, because she said, I'm not going to have that. I'm not going to have no Black women up here not liking this one because she's from the South or she's from another island. And she was something. She would do big jazz, have jazz bands here, and they would dress up. They could dress up in their fine, like, gowns and suits and BYOBB. And she did a lot of wonderful things, exercise class, all kinds of sewing, all kind of stuff. So she did that for 15 years until she got sick. So I got it legitimately. So when I dropped out of theater, I would get jobs I worked for the African American Institute by the UN. I worked there for 4 years. I had 3 different jobs there. Yeah. I worked in a lot of different places. I worked for 10 years and maybe more after college too. I worked for New York City Housing Authority in almost all 5 boroughs, teaching theater and acting. And that was very frustrating because the people that work with you, they didn't really support you. Like, you only saw the kids maybe once or twice a week because I had different centers. And I would tell them to work with the scripts, and I come back, the scripts be missing or pages missing. It was just, I felt bad for the kids. And then I was I was very progressive in my ideas, and we'd be rehearsing for a play or something because I would have them to write it. I have my whole style of teaching kids. So they would write the pieces like what a lot of people do in poetry or stories, and we'd make it into plays or whatever. And I remember this Latin kid didn't come, right? Like twice or something. I got pissed. I called this house one day and I said, "Where's Jose?" or whatever. "Oh, Jose don't feel like coming today." I said, "Wait a minute." I said, "We've been rehearsing for 5 weeks. I got all these kids. You better get Jose's butt in here." And I said, "Matter of fact, you need to come once a week and see what we're doing." And so she said, "Oh, okay." I probably didn't say it as nice as that, but needless to say, Jose came back. Yeah. And then I had a job, Children's Art Carnival. Betty Blayton Taylor became one of my mentors. And I ran the summer program, but it was also, I ran the first year-round program they had, but they only did it for 1 year. But it was a successful program. I got a certificate selected out of all the centers in the summer program. They gave me a certificate for running a great program. And yeah, I won't go into all the details, but I ended up having to run the program by myself because the woman who was the head, I ain't gonna say her name either because she's known. She was trying to block me at every era. I don't know what the hell was going on. What can I say? But anyway, my program ended up, I had a 16-year-old assist me because she wouldn't give me the secretary who was doing nothing all summer to assist. I had this 16-year-old. And our program ended up being cited as one of the best in the city. So who knows? But it was a lot of work. I would come in at 8:30 before the kids, and then I'd be there till 10 o'clock at night because nobody was doing the weekly program. They had to do a weekly report. So for some of them, I'd have to go myself and do the weekly report, but that's okay. The language was great. And so I had different types of jobs in the community.
What are, at this point, some of the things that you have planned on doing? You don't look like you're ready to retire.
No, I'm not. I don't think I'll ever retire unless I can't remember shit. You know what I mean? Then I'll probably retire if I got CRS. But ideally, I would like to be able to go to St. Croix on a regular basis. And I would like to build relationships there because they have theater and they have a lot of stuff there that I can get involved in. And then here I have a program that I've been procrastinating on, but I need to get it copywritten and what have you. Since my mother died, that was the first day of the pandemic. I have endeavored to work with some brothers here, but they don't do business well with women. And I tell you, I've lasted this long without shooting somebody and going to jail. I have tried to hook up with a couple of restaurant clubs, and I want to do Sunday brunches with one-person musical type historical shows and try to get churches like every Sunday. So what I would like to do is do my program that I want to write. I wrote it. I just got to get it copywritten and stuff. And I had planned, but then they went on strike. I had planned to start going out for film because they lifted all of that. You got to have the vaccine and this and the other, all that old stuff. So I said, let me go out for film now.
Finally, I wanted to ask you, with all of that you have done and been through, what is your advice to someone that wants to get into theater and they're new to it, based on your experience?
I would say know yourself, your boundaries. To me, it's better to go into the theater, especially the theater, because you love it. In film, I think that's the best way to go in, but film is more opportunity to be a movie star. If you're going to be a movie star, then a lot of times you bypass theater. So I would just say, know who you are, know what you want, what do you really want to accomplish, and do the best work you can do. That's really that's the bottom line, is that when people see your work, that's what excites them or why they want to hire you. Or
yeah, but it seems to me that a lot of other disciplines, that there are certain basic things that help you get a background in what you want to do as a life work. And that theater is that training ground, is that minor league that can turn into the major leagues and theater itself.
Oh,
but
yeah,
you're
I
based in
agree.
terms of
And I don't
going
look at it as
into it.
minor league, Stephen. I don't look at theater as minor league because there are a lot of people that's on TV and film can't do stage at all. Do you know what I mean? They just don't have that perseverance of creating that same kind of energy. You don't feel the same every night, of course, but you still want to bring the same energy that you rehearsed for. So you have to really be very disciplined in a lot of ways because your voice, like right now, if I was going to do a theater, if somebody told me I'm going to do a theater piece in a month, I would have to really do some exercises and breathing, voice and diction, get myself more centered and stronger because to do theater takes a lot.
That's what I meant. I didn't mean minor league in terms of the league itself. I mean as a training ground to start off with before you go into film. As you were saying, that so many people go directly into film and they really can't act. They just so
No,
happen.
it's true. It's true. They're typecast. They fit they can deliver a certain type or energy.
Right.
Yeah.
But the theater prepares you to be able to deal in different settings.
To be an artist, really, I think in the theater, you're closer to an artist. And even like the people who left the theater, you can see it in their work. Sam Jackson or Denzel or who's female. There's some Epatha Merkinson or people who came out of theater. You can see it in their work. Yeah, it's a eye for detail. Theater actors have a very strong eye for details and layers. And so when they go to film, they already have that in they're thinking these layers, and the camera is going to pick it up just like that. You don't have to do a whole lot of extra, but you do have to have a depth of character and be committed to your choices.
This has been a wonderful episode, and I especially like your frankness. You
I'm
say,
glad
as
you
say,
do.
you say what's on your mind, and you mean what you say.
That's
So
right. I
that's
want to give a shout out to the film that I did, Alma's Rainbow,
okay.
by Yoka Chinzera back in '94, and they brought the film back, and we not this summer, the last summer, it ran the whole summer at BAM. And then we got inducted into this because when Ayoka did it, and I didn't get to go with her to the festivals, but when she went to Cannes, she explained that the people, it was one white woman, they didn't want to believe that Black women live like that. And I didn't know what was so deep. It was a brownstone that our father left us, and I had a business in the brownstone of a hair salon on the parlor floor, and I was raising my daughter by myself. Single mothers do this all the time. And I don't know if they wanted to believe that we had those big, beautiful brownstones, but they didn't want to believe it. And it was a really nice coming of age, slice of life. Victoria Platt played my daughter. And so it didn't do much back then. But then, what's the sister from Daughters of the Dust? She decided she decided to bring it back and get it restored. And they deemed it one of the best Black films of the 90s. So I was happy that we all, Ayoka, her husband, Tommy, who's passed, first husband, and because it was really a good film. Even as an actress, like most actors, I ain't really like totally how I looked in the film because I had lost a lot of weight. I was doing iridology, and Ayoka told me, she said, "You better stop. You're getting too skinny." I was so skinny in that movie, but it was okay. Didn't have anything to do with my acting. But I was just glad that the film got recognized because it really, when we came out in 93, 94, it should have been if not a big hit, it should at least got some kind of distribution and even by now, it should have been way before now, it should have been like on Netflix or something. So now people can rent it on Amazon for $3 or $5. So I tell people that Alma's Rainbow, you'll love it. It's a really nice coming of age film. It's funny, it's smart, it's Brooklyn, it's very Brooklyn.
Okay. Give the name one more time before I close.
Alma's Rainbow by Yoka Chinzera.
That's it for the show about stuff. Join us for another wonderful topic.
Thank you for tuning in this week. Hope you enjoyed this show about stuff. See you next time.